Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to the fifth tutorial session for undergraduate thermodynamics for engineering students. So I am Dr. Jishnu Bhattacharya, an associate professor in mechanical engineering, IIT Kanpur. And the book that you are seeing, that's the undergraduate thermodynamics book by Cengel and Bowles. So please follow the cursor so that you can see where I am pointing at. So this book is by Cengel and Bowles. This is the book that we follow for undergraduate thermodynamics teaching at IIT Kanpur. Okay. So for the first tutorial, we have looked at the first chapter, which was introduction and basic concepts. We have solved problems. And then for the second tutorial, we have covered the second chapter, which is on energy transfer and general energy analysis. Okay. And for the third and fourth tutorials, what we did, we have covered the third chapter. Third chapter, we have dedicated 2 tutorials because it's a very fundamental basic chapter and which requires lot of tools to be learned, and that is why we have dedicated 2 tutorials for that, which is properties of pure substances. That's the third chapter. Okay. And we have looked at how to look up numbers and values from the tables for water, water vapor, as well as for refrigerant. Common refrigerant is R134A. And also we have looked at ideal gas equation, compressibility chart, how to use the real gas approximation, how much difference it makes, and all of it. Okay. So the third chapter we have covered. Now today we are going to take up problems from the fourth chapter. Fourth chapter is energy analysis of closed systems. Closed system, you must have learned from the theoretical class or from the book, that where heat can go out, work can go in and out from the boundary, but the mass cannot change. Mass cannot go out or it can enter. Neither it can enter. Okay. So basically that's how we define a closed system, and we will look at several problems on closed system, and we'll see that the earlier 3 chapters that we have covered in first 4 tutorials, the knowledge and the tools that we have learned in those tutorials, those will be heavily used in this particular tutorial. So let us take up the first problem now. Okay. So another thing I need to mention here is that the property table, these tables are given at the end of the book of any thermodynamics book. If you take in the appendix section, you will find the property tables. Okay, we went thoroughly through these tables, how to look them up in previous 2 tutorials. Now in this tutorial also we'll need it, but we will not go through the process of looking up numbers. I will assume that you have already learned from last 2 tutorials. So I'll just find out the numbers by myself and show you the value. Okay. Will not go through the process again. So this is my version of the property tables. This is taken from the Sengel and Bowles book only, and we will use the numbers from this table. So here I should mention that these numbers may vary a little from uh, from one book to another. Okay, but the reason is not like there are multiple versions of it. Only thing, the reference point wherever a particular author has taken, that may alter the numbers slightly. Okay, but you will see that we are always concerned about the differences. Okay, not the absolute value but the differences. So in that way, there will be no discrepancy in the calculation if you use different tables. Okay, ultimately the values you will get will be the same, but due to change in reference, the numbers may vary a little. Okay, so now let's start the first problem. Okay, so let me zoom this little bit. Just like earlier tutorials, you have seen my procedure that I'll show you where to look at through this cursor. So please try to follow that cursor. Okay, so first problem, what is the statement of the problem? A piston cylinder device contains 50 kg of water at 250 kilopascal and at 25 degrees centigrade. Okay, pressure and temperature are given, and the amount of water that's also given in a piston cylinder device. So that means it's a closed system, nothing can go in or out except heat or boundary work. Now the cross sectional area of the piston is 0.1 meter square. Okay, fine, the cross sectional area is given. Heat is now transferred to water, causing part of it to evaporate. Okay, so now you are applying heat from outside, and a closed system allows energy to be transferred through the boundary. There is no problem or no restriction on that. So heat can be transferred to the system, and whenever you will heat the water up, a portion of that will evaporate, and that evaporation will let the piston go up, or piston the volume expand. Okay, now when the volume reaches 0.2 meter cube, now as it expands, it will reach certain value, and it says that when it reaches 0.2 meter cube, the piston reaches a linear spring of spring constant 100 kilonewton per meter. Okay, so now the process is such that after reaching a certain volume, it will engage a piston, engage a linear spring. Okay, and if the piston wants to move further, it has to compress the spring. Okay, so now pressure will not be constant anymore. Fine. So the spring constant for that linear spring is given, that's 100 kilonewton per meter. Now more heat is transferred to the water until the piston rises 20 centimeter more. So from the point of contact with the piston, if you heat it further, the water vapor will expand further, and the piston will rise 20 centimeter more. Now for this whole process, you have to find what is the final pressure and temperature. That's the first thing you have to find. Then work done during this process. So you can see that you are applying heat and the boundary is moving. That means some external boundary work is being done. So you have to find out what is the amount of that work done. And third is you have to show it through a schematic diagram. Okay, the schematic process diagram. Okay, so this is the problem statement. Let's look at it now with the physical diagram. So this is the piston cylinder arrangement. Here we have the concerned material. In this case, it's water. To start with, it's completely liquid. Okay. Yeah, it's liquid water. of 50 kg mass, and the area of cross section is given 0.1 meter square. And now you can see the initial position, there is a spring up here, but it does not touch the piston. So the piston can move up to this point without causing any extra force, or without seeing any extra force other than the vapor pressure. Okay, so now the whole process, we can find three major milestones here. The first state is the initial state, where the pressure, temperature, mass, everything is known. Okay, the volume is not known, we will have to find it out. So that's the initial position. Now the second one is the intermediate state, we can say, when the piston expands and it engages the spring. So when the piston rises and reaches here, first it touches the piston, spring. That's the intermediate state, we call it state 2. So here up to this point, from 1 to 2, the pressure remains same, right? Because the piston, the weight of the piston is the only pressure that the gas feels. But you have supplied some heat, so temperature will be higher than the state 1, and the volume will also be more, right? So initial volume we don't know, you have to find out, but the state 2, the intermediate volume is given, and we have to I mean, that will be more than the initial volume. Now comes the final state, or the state 3, when the spring is engaged now and it is compressed. So the final state is reached when you have certain compression of spring, and that compression is given. So the volume is indirectly given here, okay, through the spring compression and other variables. And pressure, temperature, etc., we need to find out, we don't know. Okay, so the process, what is happening here? So these are the major states, 1, 2, and 3, initial, intermediate, and final. What are the processes are happening? The boundary work is being done by movement of the boundary, and the external heat is getting added to the system. So now the phase compositions are vital. We have to see what are the phase compositions. Okay, so let's look at that from whatever value we are given. So let's look at state 1 first. Okay, state 1, temperature is given to be 25 degrees centigrade, pressure is given to be 250 kilopascal, and it is also given that it's compressed liquid. Okay, so now it's compressed liquid. So for the compressed liquid, we don't have any table for that. We have seen that whenever we have compressed liquid, we take the specific volume to be same as the saturated liquid value for that particular temperature. Here temperature is 25 degrees centigrade. So the first state in V1, that's the specific volume at state 1, will take it as the specific volume at 25 degrees centigrade, and that is the saturated liquid value. And this we can look up from the saturated water table to be 0.001003 meter cube per kg. Okay, so now we know the specific volume, and the mass is also given. Okay, that's 50 kg. So the total volume now we can find out at state 1. That will be mass into specific volume at state 1. So if we do this multiplication, we will have 0.05 meter cube. Okay, straightforward. So if we look at the state here in a PV diagram, so this is the saturation dome that we have drawn, and the state 1 is actually here. Okay, it's a compressed liquid, and it is on the pressure line corresponding to 250 kPa. Okay, so on the pressure line, and this value of specific volume we have obtained, the same specific volume as we get for that particular temperature on the saturation line. Okay, so now what is happening? So along this line, actually, we are going because we are following constant pressure. So if we remember from state 1 to state 2, the spring is not engaged. Only the weight of the piston is what is giving resistance to the vapor to rise. Okay, so it will be a constant pressure process. So what we are doing, we are going towards the saturation vapor line and along this constant pressure line. Okay, so state 2, P2 will be equal to P1, that's 250 kPa, and the volume at the state 2, that's given to be 0.2 meter cube. Okay, but we don't know where it lies, whether it lies in this two-phase region or it goes further along the constant pressure line and goes to the vapor phase. That we don't know, that we have to find out. How will we find out? We'll look at the specific volumes at this state 2. So specific volume at state 2 is V2, which is given, divided by mass. Mass is not changing for closed system. So that is, we can calculate to be 0.04 meter cube per kg. Now we know what is the state 2 volume. Now we can see what is the specific volume at this point. That means constant pressure line cuts the saturation vapor line. Okay, so if the specific volume at state 2 is higher than this point, then it will be in the superheated vapor region. Otherwise, if it's less, then we will be in the inside the dome. That means on this flat plateau. Okay, so now we have to check whether it lies inside dome or in the vapor region. So for the specific volume at vapor state at 250 kPa, we can look up from the table, that's 0.71873 meter cube per kg. So clearly this V2, as we have obtained, it's 0.04. So V2 is less than Vg at 250 kPa. Okay, so clearly 2 lies inside the dome. So now we can tentatively write 2 somewhere inside the dome on pressure line 250 kPa. Clear? Now let's see what happens when it moves further. So if the expansion goes on, what will happen? So now at state 2, the spring gets engaged, right? So pressure is no longer constant because spring will apply extra force and that will convert. For the equilibrium, you need to have equal pressure. So pressure will increase. And it is given that the spring is linear, so pressure will change linearly. Okay, and the temperature will also change. So from state 2, here we have seen that tentatively it will be here. So from state 2, pressure will increase linearly. Let's say it's going along this line. It depends on the spring constant. And it will reach state 3. Okay, but whether it will stay inside the dome or it will reach into the superheated vapor region, that we don't know, right? Again, we have to check from the given data. So it will be somewhere, we can only say that 3 will be somewhere on this line. Okay. So now we can see that whether it is in the state 3 is inside the dome, that means partially liquid and partially vapor, that we have to check. So now if we go to state 3, what we know, we don't know P3, I mean pressure, temperature, volume, nothing is known. But volume, actually we can find out because indirectly it's given. It will be V2 plus spring expansion, or sorry, spring compression multiplied by the area of the piston. So that is the added volume from state 2 to state 3. So state 2 volume is 0.2 meter cube the spring compression is given to be 0.2 meter and the area of the piston is 0.1 meter square. So the V3 we can obtain directly from this calculation, which is 0.22 meter cube. Okay, now this is the total volume. Now if we want to find out this specific volume, then we have to divide it by mass and we will get 0.0044 meter cube per kg. Okay, now we have to see whether it is inside the dome or outside. So now for that we need to know state 3 is on which pressure line. So pressure we have to know. So at P3 the P3 means the pressure inside the piston cylinder arrangement, that will be P2 at the state 2 pressure plus the pressure that is coming for the spring force. Okay, so spring force Fs divided by A, and Fs for linear spring it will be K into X. K is the spring constant which is given 100 kilonewton per meter and X is given to be 20 centimeter. Okay, so if we do this calculation after putting all these values, it will be 450 kPa. So now we know on what line or on what pressure line state 3 is lying. Okay, so now we have to see whether it is in the two-phase region or not. Okay, so now we know P3. So now if we look up pressure table for saturated water for 450 kPa, so the specific volume for the liquid, that's 0.001088 meter cube per kg, and for gas or vapor it is 0.41392. So clearly whatever specific volume at state 3 we have calculated, that's in between this Vf and Vg. So clearly we can see that it will be state 3 will be within the dome, not in the superheated vapor region, right? So now as we have seen that it's inside the dome, we can clearly tell the temperature for state 3 will be the saturation temperature, right? Because it's inside the dome, and that saturation temperature will be corresponding to the pressure at state 3, that's 450 kPa. So we can look that number from table, that's 147.9 degrees centigrade. Okay, so now if we closely look at what is happening in this process, we are starting at this compressed liquid zone at state 1. We are following a constant pressure line to reach state 2 when the spring gets engaged, and now the pressure is changing linearly, and at state 3 it is reaching 450 kPa but within the dome itself. Okay, so this is the process that schematically we can show. Actually you can exactly draw this on a PV diagram. Now it is also asked what would be the boundary work. So you are putting heat in and you are getting some boundary work out of it. So this total boundary work will be area in the PV diagram, right? So if we look that up now, here we see that there are 3 portions. Okay, so area under the curve from 1 to 2 to 3, that will be the total boundary work out. So this whole area under the curve we can divide by 3 portions. This A, okay, A is just between 0.1 to the saturation liquid point and the area under that portion of the curve. And then B is the flat portion from the saturated liquid point 2.2, that's the portion we call B. And the third portion where from 0.2 to 3 the area under the curve is C. Now what we can see, if we actually look up the numbers, we'll see that this part A will be extremely small compared to part B and C, because along the constant pressure line, compressed liquid is basically at the same temperature 25 degrees centigrade, this value you can see it will be very small, negligible. So the area under the curve from 1 to 3 will be effectively B plus C. Okay, so B plus C, B is a rectangle and C is a trapezoid, right? So this is rectangle B and C is trapezoid. And rectangular volume, how we can find? It will be P1 into V2 minus V1. Okay, this is the change in volume and this is a constant pressure process. So P1 into V2 minus V1 will be the area under the curve, which is designated as B. And the C part will be trapezoid. So area will be, you can find P2 plus P3 by 2, that will be the average pressure for this process. From 2 to 3, the average process pressure will be P2 plus P3 by 2 and the change in volume is V3 minus V2. So everything is known here. Okay, we have found out all of them in earlier steps. So we can just put those values and we can find this is 44.5 kilojoule. Okay, so this is a very interesting problem. That's why I have chosen it to demonstrate that all these things which are not known, we can find out if we actually use our intuition, we use our knowledge of the this saturation curve. It is very important to find out the phase where exactly we are lying for any pressure, temperature, volume, whatever property values are given. Okay, so that's the first problem. I think it clarified your property table concept much more clearly, and we have applied it into a closed system. Now let's look at the second problem. Second problem is again more of a conceptual problem. Okay, so that is on R134A. Now we are looking at a refrigerant system, I mean a closed system having the refrigerant inside it. A 0.5 meter cube rigid tank contains R134A initially at 160 kPa and 40% quality. Quality means quality of vapor. That means the dryness fraction. Also some authors use the term dryness fraction. Okay, so that means how much vapor is there in a vapor liquid mixture. Okay, so now heat is now transferred. So we can see the initially it is in the two-phase region. That's just given because it's a 40% quality. Whenever quality is between 0 to 100%, it is in the two-phase region. So heat is now transferred to the refrigerant until the pressure reaches 700 kPa. Okay, so from 160 kPa, pressure is increased through transfer of heat up to 700 kPa. Now, in this process, you have to determine what is the mass of the refrigerant inside the tank and the amount of heat transfer to accomplish this rise in pressure. Okay, and you have to show it in the PV diagram. Now, let's try to solve it, and we need few intuitions to be checked first. So it is given that it's a rigid tank. So that means it will be a constant specific volume process, because this we have discussed many times that volume is constant, mass is constant. So there is no other option but to follow a constant specific volume process. Okay, so in a PV diagram, that means that we will have to, so both 1 and 2 will be on a single vertical line on this plot. Okay, so it can be here, it can be here, it can be here, that we don't know yet. But what we know, that it will have to be on a vertical line, 1 and 2. Now first, so one thing is given that the lower pressure is 160 kPa and the initial state is in the two-phase region or inside the dome. So it can be here. Okay, and if you now follow constant specific volume, to reach a higher pressure, which is 700 kPa, that's given. So if this is the 700 kPa line, you can reach to a single phase region 2, right? Or if you are here at 1 prime, so these are not to the scale, it's just a schematic I am trying to show you. Okay, so if that 40% quality point means that if you increase pressure, it will reach in the compressed liquid zone. Okay, this is compressed liquid zone. And it can also be possible that you are here inside the dome and you remain inside the dome only after the increase of pressure. That's also very much possible. And the third possibility, you are here at 1 double prime, and if you increase, you are going into the superheated vapor region. That's also possible. Now we don't know whether it is compressed liquid, whether it's two-phase region, or whether it's superheated vapor. Okay, a priori we don't know. For that we have to find few values to check where we lie. Now state 1 is two-phase region, quality is given, but which one we have to follow? 1 to 2, or 1 prime to 2 prime, or 1 double prime to 2 double prime? That we don't know. Now what we know is the energy balance for this closed and rigid system will be whatever heat that you will produce, it cannot produce any boundary work. So the whole heat will convert into the rise in internal energy. Okay, because it's a rigid system, it cannot perform any boundary work. It's a closed system, that's why it cannot perform any other kind of work as well. So heat will be supplied and it will rise the internal energy of the system, and that internal energy you can find m into specific internal energy at state 2 minus specific internal energy at state 1. Okay, so by finding that out, we can find what is the Q in. So let's try to find, first we have to find which process to follow. Okay, so now if we look at state 1, that P1 is 160 kPa and quality we call it X1, that's 0.4, 40%. So if we look up the saturated temperature table for 134 R134A, so at 160 kPa these are the values. Okay, so this is for the specific volume of liquid at 160 kPa, and the same for the saturated vapor at 160 kPa. Okay, and we also find out what are the corresponding values for the internal energies, because we will need it. So all these 4 values we pick up. So now the V1, that means the specific volume at state 1, will be Vf plus dryness fraction or quality into Vfg. Vfg is nothing but Vg minus Vf. So if we all know, we know all the values, so we can find out what is the specific volume at state 1. And similarly, we can find what is the specific volume at, or specific internal energy at state 1, U1. Okay, so these we have found. Now state 2, we know that the pressure is 700 kPa, that's given, and we know that the specific volume at state 2 will be equal to specific volume at state 1, and that is 0.04987. Now from the saturated temperature table for R134A, if we look up the specific volume for fluid and specific volume for saturated vapor, we get these values, and we see that V2 is actually greater than Vg. That means it's superheated vapor. So we didn't know where will the second state lie. So now we know from this vapor the specific volume comparison, and we see that the specific volume at state 2 is greater than the specific volume of saturated vapor at the same pressure, 700 kPa. That means this is superheated vapor. Okay, now we know exactly what to do. And if we look up the value of that specific volume at state 2, that is I mean, we need to find the specific internal energy corresponding to state 2, right? And for that, what we need is specific volume. I mean, specific volume we know, and from there we need internal energy. Now, if we look up the superheated vapor table for at the same pressure, we will see that specific volume up to 0.048597 is given. So actually you need to do a little bit of extrapolation, and that will give you U2, or the specific internal energy at state 2, to be 377.23 kilojoule per kg. Now we know both the specific internal energy at state 1, specific internal energy at state 2, and we know the mass. Actually we have to find out the mass because we are given with the initial volume and initial specific volume we know. So the mass will be 10.03 kilogram, and heat transfer will be obtained by equating the Q input will be equal to mass into U2 minus U1. And if you put the values, you will find the answer to be 2708 kilojoule. So after that, it is straightforward, but the conceptual key here is to find out where you lie. So just to show you this is the conceptual hurdle where all the confusion comes in, and I insist you to check these through numbers, not just assume something. Okay, because you don't know. If you assume something, if you are lucky, it will be true, but if you assume something and it's not true, then you will be in trouble. Okay, so let's go to the next problem, where we are going to use not these two-phase systems but a gas. Okay, so this is argon is compressed in a polytropic process with N equal to 1.2. So N is called polytropic coefficient, and you can I am assuming that you have read through the chapter, and polytropic coefficient tells us about the process, how the pressure and volume are interrelated. Okay, that's how is expressed through this polytropic coefficient. N is 1.2 given, and the initial pressure is 120 kPa and 10 degrees centigrade. That's the initial condition, and the pressure is increased by compression to 800 kPa in a piston cylinder device. Now determine the work and heat transfer during this compression process. So now this is not a rigid container, but a piston cylinder device where pressure, I mean the volume can change. It has that flexibility. Okay. So this argon can be treated as an ideal gas. And how, I mean, at what condition ideal gas assumption is true, and all we have looked at in the earlier chapters and the corresponding tutorial problems. So we can look up the properties for this ideal gas property of argon, and the properties that we are going to need is the gas constant, that's R argon, that will be 0.2081 kilojoule per kilogram Kelvin, and the specific heat at constant volume CV, that's 0.3122 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Now what do we mean by a polytropic process? It tells us how the pressure and volume changes along the process in an interrelated manner. Okay, so pressure, if it's constant pressure, that's one kind of process. Constant volume, constant temperature, you have seen those are straightforward to handle. But polytropic process gives you more real processes which you can express an interrelation between pressure and volume. And this this polytropic coefficient n is actually the index for the volume. So PV to the power n equal to constant. That's the general form of polytropic process. And the special cases are PV to the power gamma is constant. Gamma is nothing but the Cp over Cv. That means the specific heat ratios, which is also called Poisson ratio for gas. Okay, and this is true for adiabatic process. PV to the power gamma equal to constant. When we have no heat transfer, those adiabatic processes can be represented through this kind of process, this kind of equation. And if the process is isothermal, we can say that PV equal to constant, because the equation of state we know, PV equal to RT or nRT. That's our ideal gas equation, and if T is constant, other things are constant on the right hand side. So PV equal to constant is true for isothermal process. So these are special kinds of polytropic process. But let's look at the polytropic process at hand, which is PV to the power 1.2 equal to constant. Okay. So now the energy balance equation, if we look at, that will be Q, that heat input, minus the boundary work out. So the piston can move, so boundary work can go out, equal to the change in internal energy. That's the statement of Hurst's law, straightforwardly used. Q in minus W boundary out minus equal to delta of U. And delta of U we can find through mass into specific heat at constant volume multiplied by the temperature difference. Okay, and we can also find out that what is this WB out, or the boundary work out. So for a polytropic process, it can be straightforwardly shown that this WB out will be expressed as this equation: RT1 divided by 1 minus n. N is the polytropic coefficient, which is given to be 1.2, multiplied by P2 by P1, that's the compression ratio, to the power n minus 1 divided by n, and the whole thing you subtract 1 from that, and that will give you the boundary work out. Okay, so if you remember this, very well and good, but if you don't worry, it can be very straightforwardly derived. We can show it here as well. So boundary work is nothing but the area under the curve, that's P into dV, and the integration has to be from 1 to 2, right, from state 1 to state 2. And this P you can write this constant divided by V to the power n, right? PV equal to constant C, so C divided by V to the power n is P. So now you have to do this integration, and if you proceed to that, and also C is nothing but PV to the power n, right? So by putting all these things, you can very quickly, in less than a minute, you can derive this formula. So don't worry whether you remember it or not. Okay, so now the boundary work out, we can input all those values are given. Okay, P2, P1 and T1 we know, R we have looked at from the table, and N is also given to be 1.2. Okay, so you can find out what is the WB out. Now to find out the heat transfer, you need to find delta U, and delta U we know T1 but we don't know T2. So T2 also we need to find. So T2 how can we find? That we can find by using ideal gas law and the polytropic process relation. Okay, so this again you can just in 5 seconds you can derive this by PV to the power n equal to constant and PV equal to nRT. From that formula you can write T2 equal to T1 multiplied by P2 by P1 to the power n minus 1 by n. Okay, so everything on the right hand side we know. Only thing you have to find, be careful about is T1, you have to write it in Kelvin. It's given in degree centigrade, but you have to convert it by adding 273 Kelvin to it. Okay, and T2 you can find out to be 388.2 Kelvin. Okay, so now you use this Q in minus WB out equal to delta U. Now you have all the values. Q in you can find out to be negative 76.6. So if you put all these values, work in output, boundary work output, and the internal energy change, you will find out to be a negative number Q in. So what does it mean? That Q is actually leaving the system. You are cooling it. Okay, when you are compressing, you are actually cooling the system, not adding heat. That is why Q is negative. Okay, so in thermodynamics, it's very important that you understand the direction of this work and heat. Otherwise, you will get surprised that why I am getting a negative number. But if you actually think of the physical process, you should think that, okay, if you don't get a negative number, then only you will be surprised. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the third problem. So now let's take another problem for this tutorial where we'll have different forms of work input, not the boundary work, but we'll have different forms of work input as well. Okay, so the statement of the problem is an insulated piston cylinder device contains 5 liters of saturated liquid water at constant pressure of 175 kPa. So it's a saturated liquid water. The volume is, total volume is given, the pressure is also given. Now water is stirred by a paddle wheel. Okay, so you have a paddle wheel which is giving some work input to that body of water, while a current of 8 ampere flows for 45 minutes through a resistor placed in the water. So there are two inputs. One is work input, mechanical work input through the paddle wheel, and another is electrical work input through a resistor, and the current and duration are given. If 1/2 of the liquid is evaporated during the constant pressure process. Now it's a piston cylinder arrangement. So piston is, it has a constant weight. So that means it's a constant pressure process. And as you putting in all these electrical and mechanical work in, so ultimately it will increase the internal energy of the system, as well as it will increase the, it will have some boundary work as well. And it is given that it's an insulated system, so no heat interaction is having. The system is having no heat interaction. Okay, so by all this constant pressure process, what it's achieving, 1/2 of liquid is evaporated during the constant pressure process, and the paddle wheel work amounts to 400 kilojoule. So paddle wheel work is given directly to be 400 kilojoule. And we have to determine the voltage of the source. Okay, so the electrical work input is not given directly. We have to find that out. The current is given, time for how long the current was flown, that's given, but the voltage is not known. So that's what we are going to find out, and we have to show it in a PV diagram as well. Okay, so this is what is happening. This is a piston cylinder arrangement. This piston can move up and down, but this whole thing is insulated. No heat interaction is happening. What interactions are there? One interaction, that we have a paddle wheel which is giving mechanical work or shaft work. This SH stands for shaft work. That's what we are inputting here. And this, there is one register electrical coil which is giving electrical work. WE stands for electrical work, and that's going inside this water body. And the pressure, constant pressure process is being followed because the piston has a constant weight. So if it goes up and down, it will be a constant pressure process. Okay, so now the state 1 is given to be saturated liquid water at 175 kPa. Okay, so and state 2, the same pressure but 1/2 is liquid. So in a PV diagram, schematically we can show that if this is the P equal to 175 kPa line, okay, if this is the line, and the state 1 is directly given that it's the saturated liquid water. So state 1 is here. And the second state also is given in terms of the quality of the vapor. So 1/2 is vapor. That means X is 0.5 here. Okay. And this is state 2. Okay. So now if we look up the numbers, so 3 forms of work are here. One is electrical work, mechanical work, and the boundary work. Boundary work is through the movement of the piston. So effectively changing the internal energy by all these works. Okay, because there is no heat transfer. Now energy balance will give the work terms, that's electrical work input plus paddle wheel work input minus the boundary work output. Okay, and that will be equal to delta U. That's the first law. The Q term is not there, only work and change in internal energy. Now what you can do, you can take this boundary work out to the other side of the equation, and you can see that the electrical work input and the paddle wheel work input will be equal to delta U plus the boundary work out. And this is by definition delta H, or the change in enthalpy, right? Enthalpy is U plus PV. So here boundary work, the difference of PV work, and so this is by definition the delta H. What you can write, this will be equal to M into the specific enthalpy at state 2 minus specific enthalpy at state 1. So what we need to find now, that the specific enthalpies. Okay, so for state 1 we have this P1 175 kPa saturated liquid. So we can look up the specific enthalpy value here, 487.01 kilojoule per kg, and the specific volume will be specific volume at saturated liquid point for the same pressure. That also we can look up. And for state 2 we know the pressure and we know the quality. So similarly we can find the H2 by looking up the saturated liquid value of enthalpy multiplied by the quality into HFG. Okay, so all these values you can look up from the table and you can find what is the H2, small h2. Okay, and mass also we need, which is capital V divided by small v1, that's specific volume at state 1. So from there also we can find mass 4.731. Okay, so if we go back to the energy balance equation, so electrical work input, paddle wheel work output, that will be equal to M into H2 minus H1. Okay, so now the electrical work input you can write in terms of voltage into current into the time, right? Delta T, for what time duration the current was flown at a particular voltage. Okay, that's the electrical work input for the whole time, and the total paddle wheel or shaft work input through the paddle wheel, that's given directly, that's 400 kilojoule, right? So that's it. And in the right hand side we know mass, we just found out the mass, as well as we have found out what is the specific enthalpy at state 2 and specific enthalpy at state 1. Okay, so these are the values we just found out. And if we so everything we know here except this term, right, VI delta T. For this term also, the current is given to be 8 ampere and delta T is given to be 45 minutes. So you have to convert it to be consistent to second. Okay, that's 2700 second. Okay, so we know everything in this equation here except the voltage. Okay, so voltage we can find out to be I mean, just by solving the algebra or the calculation, we can find out to be 223.9 volt. Here I want to tell you that whenever you get some number, you please have some physical sense out of it. So you know that typical, I mean, in India, the voltage that our terminals are supposed to give is 220 volt, right? It of course fluctuates around it. So this 223.9 or 224 volt is close to that range, right? So that gives you confidence that whatever value you obtain, that's actually the right number. That's a reasonable physical number. Suppose your calculation is giving you 1000 or 2000 volt. That means something is wrong there, right? Because all these whenever a problem is given, that's actually a very close to the reality problem that's asked more often than not. If and that is why the numbers it will give out as answers, those will be also very close to the reality. Okay, that is why it is important to note what number you are getting and whether it makes sense or not. Okay, so that's the end of the fourth problem. So in this tutorial, let me just summarize in a few lines that we have taken few representative problems from chapter 4, which is the analysis of closed system. Okay, and for closed systems we know that heat or boundary work or any other form of work also cross the boundary, but not the mass cannot come in or go out. Okay, that's the fundamental definition of closed system. And for that kind of system, how to analyze these work, internal energy and heat interactions, that we have looked at through few representative problems. And here we have heavily depended on the property tables. Okay, and that is why I have dedicated 2 tutorials for looking up numbers at the property tables. I gave you the hands-on experience on the looking up tables and numbers. And in this tutorial, we have also looked at few basic concept in terms of how to visualize a process. Okay, this compressed liquid, two-phase region, superheated vapor region, how to make sense of each process, how to visualize them physically, something which is you are getting, whether it's correct or not, how to check that. That's all we have discussed in this tutorial, and I hope you could follow and get benefited from this lecture. Thank you very much.